MLVC.
Excuse me, but I'm singing in one key and you're singing in another.
Poor is the man whose pleasures depend on the permission of another.
Open the door now and suffocate. Just give me a fan.
I don't trust any man who hasn't kissed another man.
I'm waiting.
All right, people, it's time to get your dancing shoes on. You're listening to MLVC. It's all Madonna, all the time.
Welcome to the party, bitches.
Hi, this is Ron Radzinsky, and you're listening to MLVC, the Madonna podcast, your place for all things Madonna, Louise Veronica Ciccone.
Hey, everybody, it's Ben.
And hey, everybody, it's Stefan, otherwise known as the person who's publicly campaigning to be Madonna's Celebration Tour correspondent. Welcome to another episode of MLVC. Today on the show, as you heard, we're joined by none other than Ron Radzinsky, who is one of the founding members of Madonna's former fan club, Icon. Hi, Ron.
Hello, it's a pleasure to meet you guys.
Likewise.
Well, this isn't our first time meeting. We've met before.
Well, I'm just so excited to be on the podcast, and I love you guys.
Well, as our listeners might remember, on our recent live episode, Ron called in and he told us all about being a founding member of Icon, Madonna's fan club that used to be. He had so many stories, we couldn't fit them all into the live episode, so we decided to bring him on the show, talk all about his time with Icon. It's Ron from Icon Day.
Fitting.
Hello.
And we're going to get to a couple questions real quick. But before we do that, remember you can find us on Instagram at MLVC Podcast. We're also on YouTube if you'd like to watch the show on YouTube. Just search MLVC Podcast. We're also on Venmo if you'd like to donate to the show at MLVC Podcast, or become a subscriber on Patreon at patreon.podbean.com/MLVC Podcast. Don't forget, you can vote for us as best podcast in this year's Queer Teas until February 21st. Vote, vote, vote. And who knows, maybe this little podcast that could will beat out some of the other competition. Who knows? I doubt it, but it's always fun to dream, right?
Live in hope, Stefan. Live in hope.
Exactly. By the power
and
of
vote
Madonna.
Daily.
Vote, vote, vote. I don't know, Ben, why don't you get started?
I will. So, Ron, welcome, and introduce us to the beginning of your Madonna journey. When did you first become a fan?
I became a fan back in the summer of 1984. I'd actually heard Holiday on the radio, and I thought it was the most amazing song. But once I saw the Lucky Star and Borderline videos, I was sold. Hook, line, and sinker. I just absolutely fell in love with what I was seeing on the screen, and I thought, this is someone who's just amazing. And like I said, I instantly fell in love.
So from there, how did you become involved in Like a Fan Club, a.k.a. the official Madonna fan club, a.k.a. Icon?
So what basically happened is that there was a store in Hollywood called Via Hollywood. And I walked into the store and met Rob Del Vecchio, and I was looking around. It was a store kind of like, if you ever watched the show Facts of Life, they had
Over Our Heads. Oh my God.
It was that store.
Sorry, I was always obsessed with that store, watching that show, hoping and praying that was like a real thing.
It was. So their store was like that. It was definitely Hollywood based. There were a lot of celebrity pictures, postcards, souvenirs. And I walked in and I just thought it was the coolest store. It was a smaller version. Mrs. Garrett was not baking cookies in the back.
Darn it.
No Claire Sleetsman.
No. But I was just looking around and I noticed there was a lot of Madonna postcards and things, and I was mesmerized, and I started speaking to Rob. And he said, my wife really loves Madonna. And I said, I must meet this woman, because remember, there was no internet at that time, so finding fellow fans was a challenge. So he said, no, she's a really big fan. And I said, okay, I'll return. So I did come back and I met her, and the first thing I noticed was that Keep It Together was playing in the store, and apparently she played Madonna music at all times. And I met her and I absolutely fell in love with her. Marsha was just a wonderful soul. So we just started talking, as friends do. And before I knew it, I'd been there for, I think, an hour and a half, and we just started talking about how much we loved Madonna and our passion for it all. And I walked away with a couple of postcards, and I realized at that moment that I had a really good friend. And I eventually introduced her to another friend of mine, and we became a little group. People started realizing that this was a place that people could go and find, some Madonna not memorabilia, but just like postcards and things like that. And one day I was at Tower Records, and they had a magazine called Pulse. It was a free magazine that they would give out to, people that shopped in the store, and I picked one up. that evening I went home and I just started flipping through it. They were highlighting fanzines. I didn't know what a fanzine was. Again, I think it was like 17 years old. And in the back few pages, there was one called MLC. And it was a Canadian fanzine. So, of course, I ripped it out. And then when I could, I ran back to Via Hollywood and said, "Have you seen this? Do you know what this is?" And Marcia said, "No. What is this?" I said, "It's a fanzine about Madonna." So Marcia, being really proactive, she reached out to MLC and wanted to find out more about them. And I think she became a subscriber. She started getting at least she had, I think, some of the magazines. And then I guess she spoke with them about being a contributor. And from what I understand, they were definitely open to the idea. But one of the things that we had talked about as friends was the fact that there was no real fan club. There was a fan club that it just didn't do anything. I think you got a welcome letter like 1986 or something, but there was no purpose to it. It just it wasn't anything. And we kept saying how much fun it would be to have a fan club. And Marcia said, "How about a fan club for the fans, by the fans? And therefore we know what it is that we want, what we're looking for." And it was just one of those topics that we jokingly talked about over and over and over again, how we needed a fan club. And, at the time, Like a Prayer just come out. So we joked about calling it Like a Fan Club, like a fan club. And that's how Like a Fanzine came up, like a Virgin. So I guess she had some communication with MLC and discussed the idea of a fan club. And they were very open to it. However, again, this is my recollection of it. It was over 30 years ago. My understanding was that they wanted to be in charge of the fanzine and Marcia would be in charge of the fan club itself. But I think that they wanted like maybe 50-50, you do the fan club, we'll do the magazine. And I think that ultimately that just was something that they didn't want to, that Marcia and Rob didn't want to do. So they thought, well, how hard is it to build a magazine? I mean, it's pretty easy. So that's what they did. They started a fan club. And then Rob was very creative. He loved, art and things like that. So he decided to work on a fanzine just to see what it would be like. And, back in those days, again, no computers. It was all done layout and hard,
cutting and pasting.
Cutting and pasting and old school. And it was expensive as well. So that's why if you look at the original fanzine, you only had the cover shot that was in color. And I think the centerfold was in color in the back. Everything else was in black and white just due to cost. But Marcia saw this as a way to perhaps have a little bit of an extra business. They started putting together a fan club and they wanted our input and, what do you think you would want? And again, our group was just excited about the idea of having something that was by the fans, for the fans. And there was absolutely no endorsement by Madonna's camp at that time, which we understood. But it was cool, watching them put it together.
Ron, we know all too well about not having positive endorsements from Madonna's camp. Trust me.
Yeah, I can only imagine. But what happened was that people started realizing that this was a thing. And about 2 issues into Like a Fanzine, her camp took notice and said, this is actually being done quite well. And after 2 issues, her camp got involved, and suddenly the doors opened, and Liz Rosenberg was there, and they endorsed the idea of becoming the official Madonna fan club. At that point, and they loved at the time you got a binder with the card, and you had Madonna money, which was $2 off the catalog. So what they did was they used the store as a way to, they had all this merchandise. This was another way to actually sell the merchandise to Madonna fans through the fanzine. So it worked really well. There was synergy with the store, with the fan club itself.
Right, because again, like you said, there was no web presence at this time. It's not like Madonna had an online store where people could just log on and go, it's like, it's the 90s. We barely had the internet until the late 90s. So it's like, where are you getting this? You had to order them through catalogs.
Exactly. So that's what they did with the fanzine. They kind of created a little bit of a catalog. And there was also a one sheet that would give you some new items that you could purchase. So it was a way to, again, sell the merchandise, get the word out. They were selling memberships. I think the memberships were $29 at the time for a year. You got 4 magazines. If you were international, it was $39. And it started to work, and people took notice. And Madonna's camp was excited. And so they endorsed it, and suddenly we had access to things that we never had before. We had we were given the Truth or Dare promo photos before anybody else. So that's how you got, the 3rd issue of the magazine had Madonna with her fingers on her eyes, and we had the all access centerfold, and that's because of Liz. She said, "Okay, you can have these things." So that's how it pretty much got started.
And what were like some of your personal highlights from your fan club days? Because you started out running the fan club, or part of the fan club. But
I was Marsha and Rob were running the fan club, but I was there as just a friend and colleague and contributor. You know, I wrote some articles for the magazine. The first article was called Close Encounters, and it was just a way to share the experiences that I had of meeting Madonna a couple times. So that was fun. Again, we were trying to build a community. There was and to connect with people, because we knew that there were so many Madonna fans, but there was no way to get in touch with anyone else. But some of the we had wonderful times. You know, we all went to the Truth or Dare premiere. We sat in the first row of the theater looking straight up. But we were there. We were given, I think like 10
Which
tickets.
premiere, the LA or the New York?
The Los Angeles premiere of Truth or Dare. We were there. And then we all got to go to the after party. And we danced the night away. There was a little stage. It was at a club called Arena, and there was a little stage. And at one point, Madonna got up and danced with the go-go dancers, and Nikki Harris was there. And this literally happened in front of me. I was looking at Madonna dancing, and then at one point she left and sat with Vanilla Ice, and she had a towel on her head. And
because I wanted to talk to you about this. So This was the premiere of Goth Donna, correct?
Yes.
This was when she showed up. It's one of my favorite. I say this incessantly on the podcast. I apologize for beating the dead horse, but this is one of my favorite looks of all time. Madonna with the smoky eye and the jet black hair. It looked like she just put shoe polish, and it was like super straight. And it's when she was on with Kid and Play on MTV, and it's like Kurt, Truth or Dare.
Yeah.
And did you know that she was going to show up looking like that? Because I just want to go in depth on Goth Donna for just a second.
No, and I'll tell you why. Because 2 weeks before, we were at the APLA AIDS Dance-a-thon where Nikki Harris performed, and Madonna was there, and we were there as well. And she was blonde. She had the red pants on, and she had the white T-shirt on and the black bra underneath. Herb Rich was there. Nikki was there. Donna was there. And she danced for a good hour. And, she was in great spirits. She looked fantastic. She had blonde hair. So cut to 2 weeks later, Goth Donna appeared. And that was a complete surprise. Had no idea. I mean, she was blonde 2 weeks before.
Yeah, it was a good look on her.
Yeah, all the press, all remember her famous Regis interview on the balcony overlooking Hollywood. Like those were all with the long blonde hair. And then she dyed her all the way May black right before the premiere. That was wild.
Yeah, I mean, it was shocking. Like I said, we had seen her 2 weeks before. We had no idea whatsoever that was going to happen.
What did she do at the premiere when you were watching the movie? Was she watching the movie as well, or?
I looked back at one point. I could see Donna sitting there in the center. I don't know if Madonna watched the movie. I've worked many premieres. I've worked many premieres for the job that I have, and most of the time the talent chooses not to watch the screening because they've seen it, a million times. Sure. So I don't know if she actually did sit and watch it. I did look back and I saw Donna right in the center. Donna had a perfectly centered seat in the balcony. I don't know if she watched it. But she was right there at the after party. She was there. She was having a good time. She was in great spirits.
So there was no audience talk back or anything with the Alec Kashishian or any of them coming up on stage and doing an audience talk back. It was literally just movie party.
I have to believe, again, it was so long ago that there was some sort of introduction to the movie. I know that Madonna did not come up front and say anything. I don't recall that at all. But yeah, we watched the movie, and everybody was mesmerized. The sound of the thunder. When she's getting a massage. Yeah, everyone screamed.
That chiropractor neck crack. I think that's frightened me, and it's still. It's if you show me a still of that picture of her head, I can hear it in my head.
You can hear it.
It's such a loud photo.
You can hear it, but the audience absolutely reacted to that. And then afterward, we went to the party, which is interesting. I guess we all drove to the party because Arena was not walking distance from the Cinerama Dome, but we all went. And it was hopping. I mean, it was a great time.
So you were able to like move around freely with like, were you dancing with her at any point?
She was dancing on a stage. There was a platform that the go-go dancers had at the club. So we didn't dance with her at that time. She danced sort of above us per se, but she was on the stage dancing. She was not in the crowd dancing, but she was having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And there were plenty of Evian bottles all over the party, just so you know.
Of course, of
True.
course.
I took one home with me. And I just couldn't believe I had an Evian bottle in my house. You know.
Is it still unopened?
No, it was opened.
Ron used it one night.
Mm-hmm.
No comment from the peanut gallery.
That's too funny. What was the audience reaction that night? Like at the end, did everyone just jump up and clap and go crazy?
Everyone went crazy. Everyone loved it. They just loved the movie. I mean, how could you not? It's such a brilliant movie, and it just everyone loved it. They really did. The reaction was so positive, and walking into the party afterward, it was you were in for a good night. You were already watching this amazing movie that everybody was excited to see, and then suddenly you were going to go party with her. So yeah, absolutely, it was fun.
That's amazing that they allowed you as like people running the fan club to participate in that. Like that's amazing that they gave you that opportunity.
We had the invitation. We had we were welcome guests. We had the worst seats in the house because nobody wants us in the front row, but who cares?
Sure.
We were there.
Yeah, you were there.
Yeah, we were there when all of the when the red carpet was taking place. We weren't on the carpet, but at one point I was very young. If I only knew then what I know now. But I during the MTV special that was being taped, I'm actually in the I'm on the video as Sandra Bernhardt's talking. I'm just sort of standing there, just looking around at what's happening. So I can see me kind of in the background, just looking very lost, confused, but very mesmerized by the whole, experience. It was awesome.
What other are some highlights from your experiences during those? Because I'm assuming there was more than just the Truth or Dare premiere.
Yeah, we took a limo. So Madonna came for the Blond Ambition tour in May of 1990 to Los Angeles, and they happened to fall on the same day of my high school prom. And I decided, what's more important to me, the high school prom or seventh row seats at the Madonna concert?
Hell yeah.
So we took a limo, and we actually had been given I don't know how we got it, but we had a bootleg of the entire Japan show. And we listened to the entire show on the way in the limousine on cassette to this LA Sports Arena. So seventh row, it was fantastic. We were given some backstage passes. We didn't see Madonna, but we did see Paula Abdul back there.
Fun.
And I think I saw Vanity back there as well. So when you're watching Truth or Dare and she's in Los Angeles, we were there.
Wait, Vanity as in Prince Vanity?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's
she
random.
was there. Yeah, she was there. I know, right? Yeah.
Did you get to go backstage?
We didn't get to. We got to go. It wasn't backstage where the tour, where the dancers were. I mean, and that's not
with
true.
her and Warren. You weren't.
No, we weren't back there.
You didn't get to do a finger down the throat to Kevin Costner.
No. But it was certainly neat. No, we were. I guess we were not backstage where Madonna was. We were backstage where other
Mama
talent
Makeup.
was.
You were with Mama Makeup.
Mama Makeup. But yeah, that's where we were, and it was just incredible. It was the best prom ever. What other things did we get to do? We actually somehow had copies of Now I'm Following You and Vogue before anybody else. So we listened to Vogue.
Like at what time during the year? Because I think Vogue came out in the spring. So like, how early did you get a hold of it?
We had it. I think we had it at least 2 weeks before, and then.
What did they just give? They just gave you a tape?
I'm not sure how we got it. I'm not sure. But suddenly we were like, well, let's listen to this Vogue song. And we put it on while we were all together, and we realized it was something magical. So, and then we had Now I'm Following You, and we listened to that incessantly we had that definitely a few months beforehand. I'm not sure, again, how that copy came to be, but we listened to it over and over and over, not realizing it was technically two songs or, part one, part two. Right. But yeah, and we listened to that on the way to the APLA Dance-a-thon. So Yeah.
Back to the fanzine for a minute. You mentioned the one article that you wrote, but what were some of the other things that you really enjoyed contributing to the fanzine? Because, fanzines are making a huge comeback now as like an art object. And so it might be interesting to some listeners to hear from back in the days of original fanzines, like what were some of your favorites that you contributed?
I didn't contribute as much to the fanzine. I mean, at one point, we were just trying to figure out what to do. We didn't know what we were doing at all. So we thought, well, what would be fun for a fan? So at one point, they said, create like a puzzle. Of course, nobody was going to write on the magazine, but it was just, we're trying to figure out ways to just incorporate all aspects of Madonna. So, we had want ads, we had pen pals, again, pre-internet. There was no way to connect with people. We had what we called on the cover of a magazine, where we would take 12 magazines and showcase them. Again, it was a way to highlight what she was being on the cover on. And at one point, someone said, how cool would it be if we made it to 12 fanzines and we were on the cover of a magazine, so all the different icons. So that was an idea that came through. I loved the centerfolds. I loved the fact that the fans were contributing. We had illustrations that people were sending in. Just the fact that it was by the fans. It was really, it was a grassroots organization that everyone just was a part of. And, who knew that it would end up being what it became. And, eventually, I remember when Rob said to me, he said, what do you think we changed the name from Like A Fanzine to Icon? I was like, that was Rob. Rob said, let's change it. Like, Madonna is an icon. And this was back in 1990. He already knew that she was going to be, she was massive, but let's change it to Icon. Let's just change it to Icon. But Marsha was very in love with the idea of calling it the official Madonna fan club because we had that official status. Sure. She had everything. I said, when we become official, what are you going to do? Because it's going to say official everywhere. Official, official, official. And then she started having a relationship with Liz. And, at one point, Marsha and Rob actually went to Madonna's house because they came up with this idea. And they said, you can't give autograph photos to every single person, but what if we created an autograph stamp using your signature? And therefore, this is another thing that we could add to the welcoming pack, a stamped autograph picture of Madonna. And they loved the idea. So Marsha and Rob went to Madonna's house, and Marsha was so cute. She said, I'm going to Madonna's house. And so she...
Which house? Which house was this? Was this the Upper West Side place?
This was on Oriole Way. So this was up in the Sunset Hills.
Gotcha.
And so, Marsha was excited. I think she jokingly said, I got a new dress. And then they got up there and, because, we knew where it was. And went inside, and she had a sheet that had, I think, like 6 boxes. And Madonna had just worked out. So she came out, I think, wearing like a bathrobe and a towel or something. And they handed her the sheet and said, she said, what is it you want me to sign? Different signatures, all my love Madonna, all the best Madonna, love Madonna. And these were autographs that were going to be used for the letter that Madonna used, for the welcome letter that Madonna had. They were for the photographs. And then she signed all 6. And she said, "Is that it?" And they said, "Yeah." And then it was over. And she was like, "Oh, like it was fast." She was busy. She had a lot to do. But they got the opportunity to go up there.
Well, right. It's not like she was going to say, "Hey, let's sit down and have some tea and chat."
Well, but at the same time, I would have said, "Well, tell me just a little bit more about the fan club," But Donna was like, or thank you for this fan club. Thank you for all that you do. But she signed.
No.
Yeah, that's not our girl.
I can tell you from my personal experience at Madam X, that is not how Madonna operates.
No. So she signed the 6 boxes, and the 6 boxes were the sheet was eventually auctioned off by Rob later on. So you can actually find a copy of that on the internet, and you can see, what they were. I held it in my hand, and I was like, "Oh my God!" Like she touched this. But
did they at least get a picture with her? Oh no, she was in a row.
No.
She was probably like, no cameras.
No. But they did get a photo with her backstage at the Girly Show. So that was the photo that they used. But no, not that day, not at all. But they got up there. She signed them, and thank you. And then her management asked for extra copies of the photos once they were made, so that they could pass them out to people. So they were very invested. They liked the product. I mean, it was a well-made fanzine. The quality was fantastic, and if you were a fan, you wanted that.
Yeah, I had a subscription for a year. Was that photo with them backstage from the girly show? That was in one of the Icon issues, right?
Yes, correct.
I was going to say that was the time period that I have no idea where my issues are. I do remember the pen pal stuff though, because I did have a French pen pal named Pierre that we corresponded for maybe 7 months in that time period that we found each other through Icon. And then I let my subscription last. I have a follow-up question that my librarian self will never forgive me if I don't ask. Okay. Is there an archive anywhere of all the issues? Like, does someone have an archive of all the issues?
No, not that I'm aware of.
No.
I actually, to prepare for this interview, I tried to look online as well just to see what was out there. And I think some people had, I think there was a YouTube where you could flip through the magazine, but no, there was no real archive. The thing is that Marcia was the real fan and Rob was her husband, and he was not the fan. Marcia did pass away, and which is really, really sad to hear. And I think at a certain point he decided that he wanted to, just get rid of all of the things, which is why he auctioned off the sheet of paper with the autographs. There was the first welcome letter that she signed in the red pen that said, "All my love, Madonna," in issue number 3, which was technically Icon issue number 1. Marcia had a vast collection. I mean, there were things that I would have killed to have. I have no idea what happened to those things, but I do know that the 2 pieces that I mentioned were auctioned off. So, but I don't believe that there was any sort of archive. I mean, you can find the issues, people still sell them. I mean, they're crazy expensive now, but I don't believe that there was an archive at all. I don't think that was something that they were thinking about.
Ron, why was the decision to end the fan club? How did that happen?
I don't know exactly why. I have to believe it might have been due to the fact that Marcia passed away. That would be my thought.
Oh, okay.
Because she was the one that was really the most invested. I mean, Rob was too. I mean, it was certainly a business for the two of them. But without the person,
they were employed, right? This wasn't just like something that it was a side project anymore. Like they were fully employed doing this.
This became yes. They eventually closed the store, and this was their full-time job. Correct. Yeah. No. It was
hired through Madonna's team.
They weren't employees of Madonna. They were not Madonna employees, but they owned the fan club and they generated revenue off of the fan club in collaboration with Madonna's camp. So,
I was going to say, what was the creative process like for the fan club? Like, was it? They were having meetings with Liz Rosenberg from a PR perspective. Were they meeting with creative directors from Madonna's team?
I don't think so. I think that it was more just Liz would say, by the way, we have some new photos. We have, this is coming up. I mean, I wasn't part of the conversations that she had with Liz. Those were, obviously, private. But like I said, the access was there. If there was something that Madonna was promoting, Liz would actually help in getting, the letters, especially,
Sure.
Liz, we're going to be getting a letter, we're going to be putting out an issue. We need the letter from Madonna. Liz absolutely helped with that. So yeah.
And I guess because I'm trying to remember when the fan club actually ended, but I guess social media sort of took over its place. There was no, now that the fan club was providing direct access to Madonna that people didn't have.
Correct.
And therefore social media sort of like usurped that. Now that Madonna could be on social media and the internet, you didn't really need a printed magazine as often.
Well, at that point, the printed magazine was outdated.
Yeah.
So the passage of information was so quick that by the time that they put together the fanzine, remember again, it was cut and paste. It was, it was a labor of love. So by the time that the issue was released, the news was old. And although it was, beautiful and there was so much care that was taken into putting it together, ultimately it was outdated.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so shifting gears slightly, you attended film school and worked around LA. What brought you into the film industry?
I'd always wanted to work in the film industry. It was a passion of mine. My first job was working at a movie theater, and that was the first time that I actually met Madonna. She was a guest at the movie theater. And I love movies. I really do. And
Wait, so tell us about this meeting Madonna. We're not just skipping. You can't just drop that and skip over.
Not gonna skip it. No, I was a box office cashier. I earned $3.35 an hour.
My God, was that what minimum wage was at the time?
Minimum wage was $3.35.
Shockingly, it hasn't even gone up that much in all that time.
1988. But I was pretty vocal about my passion for Madonna, and my manager said, she comes here. And I said, wait, what? They said, no, she comes here. She comes here. One of the stories that I appreciated that I was not a part of was that she came to the theater with Sean Penn at some point, and I guess she left her ID. I guess her ID fell out of her pocket, and one of the ushers found it, and suddenly it was like, oh my God, we've got Madonna's driver's license here. And it made its way to the office, and I guess 100 copies of the license were made. I never got to see one of the copies, even though I begged anyone for one. But he came back the next day and said, I think my wife left her ID here. And of course, they gave it to him. But she came in one night when I was on break, and I was so angry. I was,
Oh, so you didn't even see her?
Well, I saw her afterwards. So I didn't sell her the ticket because I probably would have passed out at that moment. But when I only had a 15-minute break. You would think that I was gone for an hour. I had a 15-minute break, went to grab a slice of pizza, came back and they said, Madonna just came in.
Oh my God, I would have died.
What theater? Theater number 8. So I ran to the theater, and it only sat like 35 people. So I'm walking in trying to find her, and it was so dark, and I was waiting for just a moment. Well, I had about 2 hours to kill, and of course that was going absolutely insane. So I told the manager that my intention was to walk up to Madonna and meet her, and he said, absolutely not. And I said,
Right.
I said, well, I think you're wrong. That's going to happen. He said, well, it's against the company policy. I said, so do you need me to quit right now? Because I will. I said, if you need me to quit to make this opportunity happen for myself, that will happen. Like I will hang up my bow tie and my terrible polyester burgundy jacket and hand it to you. But make no mistake, I will be walking up to Madonna when she leaves this theater. And he looked at me and goes, you really want to quit your job to meet her? I said, I'm beyond serious. I said, I make $3.35 an hour. I can get that any place else. It's a minimum wage. I said, so you have a choice. And I don't know why I was so confident.
Ballsy.
And, yeah, I didn't care.
Very Madonna brazen of you.
Very brazen. And she was there. And I said, I'm going to meet her. I don't really care what you say. It's either you're going to endorse it or you're not. So if you endorse it, I will continue remaining an employee here. Otherwise, I'm hanging up my bow tie and jacket, and I'm quitting right now, effective immediately. And he looked at me and goes, I can't believe you're going to quit your job over this. I said, I can't believe you're questioning me.
Yeah, he clearly did not understand.
He didn't know. And yet it's so weird because everybody knew. So he thought about it.
He was straight, right?
Yeah. So he thought about it, and he thought about it, and he said, all right, I will let you do this. I'm not really asking you for permission. This is happening regardless. So the movie came to an end.
What movie?
The Lair of the White Worm, I think it was. And she always saw.
I've never even heard of it.
There were always art films that we showed, and that's why she loved our theater, because it wasn't mainstream. Mm-hmm. And the movie ended. I knew exactly when the theater was going to let out, and he said, "You're okay. You're going to keep your job. You just have to remove the bow tie and the jacket." I was like, "Gladly." So I ripped it off, threw it in the box office, and I approached her. And I had no idea that she was coming, so I needed something for her to sign, because that was going to happen for me as well. I was no question about that. So I went and I used a time card and I punched in so I'd have the date and time, which was December 11th, 1988. And I punched in and I brought a pen from the box office. And as she was coming out, she had, jet black hair, because she was recording Like a Prayer at the time. Her hair was parted down the center. She was wearing a tie-dye t-shirt. She had blue jeans on, and she had black knee-high stockings. And I walked up to her, and I said, I just want to let you know I absolutely love you, and I would love nothing more than to just get your autograph. And she was with a couple of people, and I guess thank God she was, because she was, in good behavior. and she was very accommodating. And she on my time card, she just wrote Madonna. There wasn't no love Madonna, just Madonna. And it was perfect. And I was just so excited. I said, "Can I get a hug?" And she just said, "No." And I said, "Okay." But she was kind. No, she was kind. I mean, it was a 17-year-old boy, and she was great. And she signed the time card, and I said, "Thank you very much. I thank you." And they took off. And unbeknownst to me, everybody in the theater in the lobby was watching this interaction. And when I turned around, I looked, and all of these eyes were on me, and I took the time card and I raised it like Lion King, and everyone started cheering. Everyone started cheering.
Oh, I love that story.
She did eventually come back. The next time I saw her was with Warren Beatty. And again, I wasn't working at the theater that night. It was a Sunday. I only worked Fridays and Saturdays. This was a Sunday. And they called me and said, "Get down here right away. Madonna's here with Warren Beatty." You don't understand how quickly I made my way down there. But this time I came prepared with photos. And she came to see The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover. Oh, and yeah, again, art house movies. And I was not dressed in uniform that day, so I was dressed as myself. And I walked up, and the two of them were together. And I said, "Is there any way that I can get an autograph?" And she was accommodating. She was very accommodating. She was with Warren, and I started babbling about how much I couldn't wait for Dick Tracy to come out. And I was actually walking with them as they were heading to the elevator. And I gave her two options of photos. One was the green sweater from, the early 80s, where she had her hand on her face,
Yep.
what I'm talking about. And
Yep.
the other one was a promo shot from Desperately Seeking Susan. And I said, "Your choice." And she looked at both, because I had them in plastic, and she looked at both, and then she wanted the Desperately Seeking Susan. So she removed it from the pouch, and then she signed, Madonna there. And then I said, "Thank you very much." And they left. So,
I just find it bizarre that they had so much freedom of movement, like that they were just in a public movie theater watching.
Nobody bothered them.
Yeah.
Well, we forget what the world was like before the internet. Let's be honest. Like it's bizarre to think how not just celebrities, but all of us existed in the world before cell phones and the internet.
Yeah.
Like I don't remember. I'm like, oh wow, we did all sorts of things, just being regular people, famous or not, just with a different kind of awareness of yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was just the two of them. No one else. They came to the theater. They left. They walked hand in hand. Nobody was bothering them except for me.
Well, I mean, just the fact that there was like no security, like she would never be able to do that now. Like she's always with a security person nowadays.
She came to the theater many times. She did come a third time, and that time she wasn't as pleasant. She came to, I don't remember what movie she came to see, but she showed up with all the dancers from the tour.
Nice.
And so she had
Blonde Ambition or Girly Show?
Blonde Ambition.
Uh-huh.
She was there with all the dancers. And this time I got the phone call and came with friends. That was the mistake.
Yeah.
We came with two people.
No entourage, Ron.
No. Two people. I came with two people, but she just wasn't having it that night, and she was not in the mood. And it destroyed my friend, because she was a huge fan, and she was like, she won't stop and talk to us. And I said, "Not today. She's not in the mood." But she came a few times, so it was always a treat. And I was grateful at that moment that I had kept my job, at $3.35 an hour.
That was your beginning of the film industry, but that was not the end of your time in the film industry. You moved on to a bit bigger portion of the film industry. Tell us about that. So
I basically I had gone to film school, and my goal was to get into the editorial world. I wanted to work in post-production, and I'd taken some classes, and I realized that I really just wanted to start working and get in there and kind of figure it all out. I have no idea where the confidence came from. But one day when I was not working, my mom said, "Do you want to come to the market with me?" And I said, "No, but sure." Well, I'm glad that I did that day, because while she was shopping, I went to the magazine section of the market, and they had a Hollywood Reporter, and I picked it up, and it was really thick, and I didn't know why. But on Wednesdays back in the day, the Hollywood Reporter would list all of the productions that were going into pre-production, post-production, the different status, and they had contact information for each of those shows. well, I decided I'm going to pick this up and take it home with me. So I picked it up, and as I was going through, it said, Madonna movie, and I went, oh, ding, 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 and so I bought it and went home, looked at all the names, and I thought, I want to work as a PA on this movie. So I called them up and said, my name is Ron. I want to be a PA. And the woman who picked the phone said, who are you? I said, my name is Ron. I want to be a PA. And she said, we're crewed up, but how old are you? Because clearly I was naive.
Right.
I said, I think I'm like 18 or something. And she said, okay, how about this? Would you be interested in coming and meeting with us and maybe becoming an intern? And I said, absolutely. When do you want me there? She said, how's 2:00? I said, I will be there at 2:00. So I have no idea what happened. I got there, and the woman was the production coordinator. She was fantastic. And she could see I was passionate. I kept my Madonna fandom quiet because I didn't want that to deter me or deter them from hiring me, because they knew that I was going to be some crazy obsessed fan, which I was.
They probably knew.
Yeah.
I tried to keep it quiet.
Nah,
Anyway.
It glows like an aura off of all of us.
Yeah. Anyway, they hired me, and I wasn't paid, which was fine. I didn't care. I was still living at home, so that wasn't an issue. And she said, we'll have you work here Monday through Thursday. Would you be interested in working with us? And I said, definitely. She said, do you have a car? And at the time I didn't. She said, oh, bummer, because we would have had you run things up to Madonna's house. So of course I was losing my mind, but,
oh wait, no, I forgot. I have a car. And then you like hotwire somebody's car in the parking lot.
I didn't even have a license at the time. I wasn't driving. So she said, not a problem. We'll just keep you in the office. We'll keep you here, and you'll get to learn about how the movie's made from this perspective. And I said, sure. So what was interesting was that we worked out of a house. The living room was the production office. The dining room was accounting. Upstairs, you had the art department. You had casting. We had a kitchen. And we had different areas of the house that were different departments. And it was so funny because I didn't realize that they were technically departments. I was saying, oh, I'm just going upstairs. But no, that's the art department. They were very, very, very serious about it. But one of the jobs that I had was I would get all the script revisions, and I would copy them, and I would get them ready, and we would send them to Madonna's house. It just wasn't me, but I would prepare the package, and I'd write a note, dear Madonna, here are the revisions. And I knew that she was going to look at what I had written. But it was great because they allowed me to really have some access. The movie was Dangerous Game. I was a production intern. And every once in a while they allowed me to go to set, or they would take me to set, and I get to watch them shoot. It was just crazy. The movie didn't come out the way that I thought it was going to come out, as I don't think Madonna thought either. I don't remember the original ending, but the movie had changed. But I got to go to the set, watch them shoot a few things. She was absolutely there. At one point, I was speaking to the AD, and she just randomly walked up to the two of us and handed us a folder, and I was like, oh my God, there's Madonna. I got to see some of the Polaroids that were taken. At that time, Polaroids is how they kept, the makeup and the hair. Mm-hmm. So at one point, she was taking Polaroids. She had a trailer. And then each night after the movie was shot, they would have dailies. They would screen the dailies of the previous night's footage. And one of the perks was they allowed me to go to the theater and watch dailies. So I got to actually watch the footage that had been shot. And me being me, I positioned myself right in front of Madonna so that I could hear her. And it was great because she actually came with Ingrid. Ingrid was there a lot. And so at one point, she sits down, and we're about to watch the dailies, and Madonna just quietly whispers, okay, Madonna, don't embarrass yourself. Don't embarrass yourself. And I turn around and go, you're going to do great. You're just going to be awesome. This is awesome. Like, don't worry. And she just looked at me and kind of nodded her head. Again, I have no idea where my confidence came from, but I clearly didn't know what I was doing because it was so inappropriate.
It came from youth.
Yeah. Yes. But I went to dailies a couple of times, and she was always there. She was very invested. She watched all the footage, and then she would leave. She would drive herself. She drove herself to the dailies. She and Ingrid would show up. Sometimes we had food for them. She never touched it. I'd even say, Madonna, we have sandwiches here. And she'd kind of look, wasn't eating it. And then on the final day of shooting, or one of the things that they allowed me to do was they allowed me to try on her prop wedding ring. She had a wedding ring on the movie, and I was like, "Can I try it?" They're like, "Yes, this is Madonna's wedding ring." So I tried on the wedding ring, and I'm like, "Oh my god, Madonna's finger's been in this." And then on the last day of shooting, they allowed me to go to set, and I guess she was giving autographs to people as a thank you for all their work on the movie. And you have to remember, this was the first Maverick movie. She had just signed the deal for Maverick. So this was a Maverick production. So a lot of people were, names that you recognize were part of the movie. So Freddie DeMann was one of the producers. His daughter Pilar was the makeup intern. Anthony Ciccone was working in the locations department. So I got to know Anthony. So I talked to him quite a bit.
Her brother, correct?
Her brother.
Was he the one that was in Truth or Dare?
No, that was Chris. No, I'm sorry. Martin was in Truth or Dare. Anthony, I think Anthony eventually became homeless.
That's who. Yeah,
Anthony was the one that became homeless. He was so nice. I really enjoyed talking to him. At one point, he told me that that their grandmother made the best pie, and I'm like, I tried everything I could to get that recipe from him. Like, please give it to me. But he was very unassuming. He was just there. I'm not sure that he had any interest in locations whatsoever, but he was there. She employed him. I think she was giving him an opportunity. One of the cool things about working in the locations department is that a lot of people don't know this, but Madonna's actual house was scouted as a potential location for the movie. So they took pictures of every room in the house as a way to potentially save money and maybe shoot there. What was great was that the locations person said, "Do you want to see what Madonna's house looks like?" And I said, "No, of course." And they had it all boarded up. And she said, "Okay, so you walk in here, and here's her bedroom, and here." And I mean, the house was really small. It was, I think, like only 2 bedrooms. And what was cool was that I could see, there was a camera that was pointed at the front gate, and there were TVs throughout the house that showed you the front gate, so she could always see who was approaching. The kitchen was beautiful. It was very small. It was a very small house for one person. And eventually we didn't use that location, which at that point I would have fought tooth and nail to get into, to go to set that day. But it was a way that, they looked at it. Fun little fact is that there is a stationary shot of an exterior shot of the studio, and Madonna's car, Madonna's 560 Mercedes, is right there in the center. So that's a little fun fact. They just shot the studio and her car was right there. Mm-hmm. But we had a good time. And at the time, I think Missy was her assistant, and I was given an autographed photo that said "Love Madonna." It was the bad girl photo at that time because, erotica had come out. And that was the best day of my life. I was like, oh my God, I have an autographed photo from the movie that I'm working on. And then the production actually gave me a little bit of money as a thank you for all the work that I had done.
Nice.
And that was really cool. So I wound up getting paid much more than the movie theater did. But the greatest gift was being able to go to the wrap party. We had a wrap party, and they were trying to figure out what to do for the wrap party. And they came up with some location, and Madonna said, "No, we're going to the Roxbury." So she called her contact over there, and suddenly we had the VIP lounge at the Roxbury, and there we were. We partied, and I danced next to Madonna and Ingrid as Erotica was playing, and she was mouthing the words while blowing bubbles, and it was magical,
What was she wearing?
Wow.
She was wearing. There's actually a photo that I can send you. One photo does exist. I wish I had an electronic photo of it, but she was wearing like a black dress of some sort. Her hands were in the air. I'll send you the photo.
Okay.
But yeah, no, she was in good spirits. We had wrapped the
movie. She looked so beautiful in that time period. I mean, I know that movie is not it didn't turn out the way that Madonna had wanted it to turn out. She didn't even go to the premiere, right? She just didn't show up for that.
No. I mean, I remember reading each draft, and it got better and better and better. And then when I watched the movie, I said, well, what happened? Like, this is so not
what did happen. Do you know?
No, I don't know what happened. I know that, Abel Ferrara was the director, and I guess he just got in there and changed the vision of the movie. I mean, it's against my guess, but it was not that. That was not the movie that she signed up for. Mm-hmm. And I think that ultimately she was quite disappointed, but I do think that she gave quite a strong performance.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the movies where I say people who think she can't act, and I'm like, no. Watch Dangerous Game, because she delivers quite a great performance in that movie.
Yeah, I mean, I remember there was one scene that she was shooting, and I think that there was like a prop television or something, and she went to turn on the TV, and I guess the fake TV didn't turn on or something. I remember she was so in the moment that she was so frustrated because she was right there, like in the scene, and just so frustrated that emotions were high. It was really, she was so invested. I remember everybody was told to wear black on the set, but that wasn't conveyed to me the first time that I went to set. I'm wearing a green shirt, and Abel's like, "What are you wearing?" I'm like, "A shirt." He's like, "Black, only black." I'm like, "Okay, sorry, I didn't know." But he got to know me a little bit because I was in the production office and he was there for pre-production. So he wasn't mean to me. He was just like, "Black, wear black to the set." And most of the crew in the movie because remember, there's a movie within the movie. That was the actual crew. But no, it was just a wonderful experience. It was the best way to get introduced to the film industry. And from there, I met some people who eventually introduced me to some editorial people, and I started working in that capacity because of them. So Dangerous Games certainly launched my film career.
So did you have any further M reactions after that? Like any additional?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the cool things that I got to I found out that Madonna was rehearsing for the 1990 VMA Music Awards, and didn't know that she was going to be performing Vogue and Marie Antoinette, costume. But I went to the studio to find. It was, believe it or not, down the street from where Via Hollywood was. So I went down there and I saw her car sitting right next to the studio. And I couldn't hear anything, of course, but at one point there was a break and all the dancers came out in their costumes. And I remember looking at Oliver's going like this green, and I didn't know what it was, but they looked amazing. And I just hung out. I just hung out until she eventually showed up and she left. I did look in the car at one point and I saw the demo version of Just a Dream, but it was Madonna's version.
Oh, wow.
So in the next to the gear shift, there was a cassette, and it was a Warner cassette that said Madonna, Just a Dream. So I knew the song existed, had no idea what it was, but all I kept thinking was, how do I break into this car and get this tape? Because it's clearly something that I need in my life. But she did come out. She had blonde hair at that time, and then she left with some of the dancers in her 560 SL, and they drove off. So yeah, so I didn't know what it was, but I could see that something definitely unique was happening just from the costumes alone. Fun fact, I also did audition for the Blond Ambition tour.
As a dancer?
As a dancer. Now, to be very clear, I am not a dancer. But there was an open call, and I thought, well, there's no way that I'm going to not do this. Mm-hmm. So my good friend and I, we both, my friend, auditions were being held for 3 days, January 9th, 10th, and 11th, 1990. And at that time, Carol Armitage was the choreographer. Vince Patterson had not been hired yet. As we all know, he came in much later because it wasn't working out.
Yes.
Again, from your own podcast.
Yes.
But my friend had gone the night before, and he said it wasn't bad. I said, well, what was the routine? Because I'm not a dancer. He said it's basically the express yourself routine. The Roger Rabbit, the Running Man. He said you're going to basically do that that version of it. I said, all right. And he said, and they're playing a new version of Keep It Together. He goes, so even if you don't do well, you get to hear a new version of the song. So I said, all right. So that morning I decided that I was definitely doing this, and my parents had no idea what I was really talking about, but I said, I'm going to go audition, and they let me leave school. I cut school to go. I drove down to, I took the bus all the way down to Hollywood. And I went to Marcia and said, okay, auditions are today. I'm going to do this. I have a rundown of what the audition consists of. And she goes, show me the list. And I said, it's, 4 Running Men, 4 Roger Rabbit. And I said, I don't know these dance moves. I think auditions started like at 2:00 or something. And she said, all right, we've got time. So she actually, nobody was in the store. She put on Keep It Together because we knew that was a song that was going to be playing. We didn't know what version because we didn't have it. And she goes, all right, let's do it. And then she was like, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, now this is how you do the Running Man. This is literally me an hour before I'm going to audition for The Woman, and I don't know what I'm doing, but I got to the point where I felt, I use the word loosely, confident enough that I could not completely make a fool out of myself. So my friend showed up at the store, and he drove us to the audition. Well, again, as I said, Via Hollywood was on Sunset, and Landmark Studios was on Sunset, so we just drove down Sunset. And at one point, he looks in his rearview mirror and he goes, "Madonna's behind us." I said, "No, she's not." He said, "Madonna's behind us." So I turn around and go, "Oh my God, Madonna's behind us." We were all driving to the same place.
That's so funny.
So we
the fact that you didn't have cell phones at this time is what kills me. It's like all these moments where like you were right there with her and you didn't have a cell phone ready to capture it's
nothing.
Well, you didn't even have a camera? They had point and shoots at the time?
I didn't I know, I was obviously incredibly unprepared.
You should have see, this is what you get for not going to the photomat and picking up an Instamat.
So true. But she was behind us. And then she passed us on the right, and I looked and I could see her, and she looked amazing. And I was like,
was it all like deeper and deeper come to life? Like Madonna just driving? Just
Madonna driving herself. No one else in the car. And I said, we're going to see you in a few minutes. We know where you're going. We got to we parked, and I was number 74 of the open call. And I don't mind telling you that I was dressed completely inappropriately because I was not a dancer and I didn't know what I was doing. So everybody, when I got there, I looked around and everybody was in their tight spandex and, their muscle shirts. And I was a 133-pound weakling who was going to be doing the same thing that they were doing, except I was wearing like khaki pants and I kid you not, a turtleneck because it was January. It was cold.
No.
Wow.
I know.
Ron.
This is like an episode of first season 90210 and Fame put together. Like, what is happening here, Ron?
Total mess. But that's what I was wearing, and I owned it. And I, of course, looked completely ridiculous looking at it now, looking at it then too. But we were taken in, and we were taken in groups of 10. And so Madonna was there, obviously, and I saw her drive next to me. So she was there. She was kind of sitting down on the ground. Nikki and Donna were there. Before it started, I heard Nikki say, "Did you like what we did on the MTV Awards? We came up with that on our own. That was just something that we came up with, express yourself." So I heard, Nikki there. So they went through the dance steps, and I'm like, okay, thank God. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And at the end of the routine, you ended with that kick where your leg goes all the way up. I repeat, I am not a dancer and I had absolutely no flexibility whatsoever. But in my mind, I know that my leg went just as high as all the other dancers. Realistically, it might have gone maybe like half an inch. But we did they took us through the routine once, and then they played the music, and it was the remix to Keep It Together. So right there, this was a win. I mean, the whole thing was a win, but we did it all together, and then they broke us up into groups of 5. So 2 groups of 5. So I got to watch my friend do it, and he got to watch me, and we were both terrible, but we didn't care. And then she liked 2 people from one of our groups, and she said, "You two, they said we want you two to do it again." I was so impressed because I was barely able to get through the moves, and these 2 dancers and I had a full day of like knowing what the routine was going to be, but I'm not a dancer. But they got it, and they played the music, and it was just in sync, and they did everything, and the legs popped and everything, and so we got to stay another minute longer because there were 2 people that were called out, and ultimately they were not chosen. Of course, I wasn't chosen as well, obviously. But I did walk up to her at the end, and I thanked her for the opportunity, and I handed her 2 passes to the movie theater that I know that she went to, and I said, "By the way, if you come back to the theater, the movie's on me." So I handed her 2 tickets, and she said, "Thank you very much." And she was great. She was in good spirits that night. She was just excited to be there, and everybody was just trying to figure out how to get to be part of this tour.
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
So the idea that I auditioned for the show, went to the show as my prom, and then went to the premiere, it was full circle. It was great. I was there from literally beginning to end of the Blond Ambition era.
Wow. And it was a great era to be a part of.
Yes, it
Absolutely.
was.
Absolutely.
So speaking of tours, What tours have you seen beyond Blonde Ambition and Girly Show?
I've seen them all.
Wow.
Well, no.
Platinum.
No. I didn't get to. I didn't get to see Virgin Tour because I just couldn't get a ticket, and then I was supposed to go to Who's That Girl, but I wound up going out of town the day before she arrived, and it was a trip that my grandmother was taking me, and it was a 3-week trip to Europe, and I begged, can we change the flights? And she said no. So my
Ronnie, I'm not changing the tickets, so you either are coming or you're not.
I was
Sorry,
ready to not.
Grandma. I just really love Madonna. I can see it. I can see it all. This is in your future biopic.
Yeah, I cried, but ultimately, my best friends, one who became my brother-in-law, they went to the show and they got me, they got me the T-shirt with the eyes on it, and they
love that
T-shirt.
Oh, excellent!
I have that T-shirt and I can barely fit into it now, but it's more like a crop top than it is. So.
I'm actually wearing the Blond Ambition shirt. This was the swag item.
Stand up. Let me see. Stand up.
Okay. Oh yeah,
I love that. I always wish I'd gotten that one.
Well, I didn't buy this one at the show. This was given to me at the Truth or Dare premiere. This was the swag bag. So I wore this today.
Nice.
Yeah, they were giving out T-shirts. Because I looked at it today and I thought, why is it a size large? Because I certainly wasn't a large. And I realized, this was the shirt they gave to us at the premiere. So they had all these extra shirts, and that's what they gave to us as a parting gift. One of the things that we did get to do was we went to the Jean-Paul Gaultier fashion show where Madonna premiered Erotica, and she removed her top, and we saw her
breasts.
Her breasts. But that was the first time that we got to hear Erotica in its entirety. And unbeknownst to me, she was sitting in one of the balcony seats watching the show. Had I known that, I would have not paid any attention to the fashion show that was in front of me.
Naturally.
So in essence, I was glad that I didn't know that she was there. But when she came out and she had the curly hair and the beret, and the music was loud. I just remember it was loud. But that was the first time we heard Erotica, and it's like, well, what a great way to experience it with Madonna right there, half naked in front of us.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's pretty on point.
Yeah, so we did that. Like I said, we went to the APLA Dance-a-thon. And then one of the other more recent, not recent, but one of the last times I saw her in person was I was at the Golden Globes, and I was there the night that she won for Masterpiece.
Oh, nice.
So when she walked down the carpet, I was obviously just, staring at her, and she actually turned and looked my way and looked right at me. So that was pretty cool.
Wow. That's a journey.
Yeah. So a lot of fun memories, she's brought a lot of joy. So
yeah. What are your biggest wishes for the Celebration tour?
I want the tour to live up to its name. I want it to be a celebration. I don't want it to be political. I want it to be a fun party. This is 40 years of iconic music. And, the one thing that I always say is that for me, Madonna's music is a healing tonic for the soul. I hear that music and it heals me. It makes me so happy. So when Vogue comes on and I hear that opening, the music, it takes over. I want Nikki and Donna back. I want the set list to be, I have, my friend and I talk about this all the time. It's almost like I don't know that she can meet the expectations that we all have because we all want so many different things.
She can't. She can't.
I know.
It's impossible. Literally, it's impossible. I hear so many different perspectives from people saying this is what they want. No, this is what they want. No, this is what they want. I'm like, you know what? Everyone's going to be disappointed.
But in some way, she's given us the time to work through all those feelings by announcing the tour so far ahead of when it starts. Everyone can go through their own journey to accepting that it's going to be what it's going to be and not what any of us may want individually. So, yeah.
I'm hoping for just an amazing set list. Obviously we want, we want to hear Rescue Me. We want to hear Causing Commotion. We all have our favorites. I know, Pray. But I want the show just to be a lot of fun. I hope that she stays away from politics because this really should be a retrospective of, her career. Not that she isn't political, but I think that it just needs to be fun. And I think that people want to dance. And, we've lived through a pandemic and everybody just wants to have fun. So,
yeah, I agree. I think the tone needs to be on point. Like she could actually get through a set list, even if it wasn't like some of the quote unquote greatest hits, but if it was an uplifting message, the tour, as opposed to, I just think people don't want dark and brooding and serious, they don't want gangbang. They want,
right.
They want Into the Groove, they want to
have fun. I mean, everyone has their own specific memories about Madonna's music and how it makes them feel. So they want to go back and feel that again. And
Correct.
this music has that power. It's whether or not she chooses to tap into it to kind of, that's the message that she needs to send out there. Yes, there's a lot of darkness in the world. Yes, she's very spiritual these days, but at the essence of the day, people just want to enjoy her for who she is. She's a living legend. She's still here.
Yeah, I don't count her out. I think she's got some tricks left up her sleeve.
I absolutely agree with you. Absolutely agree.
Yeah, and Jean-Paul Gaultier may have retired from his fashion line, but that doesn't mean he can't make costumes. I'm just saying.
Definitely.
Well, Ron, I think it's time for a little segment we like to call the lightning round. As a listener of the show, you are very well aware that these answers are meant to be quick, off the top of your head, wherever you're at in your Madonna journey. Today, don't think too hard. Favorite Madonna song?
Holiday. But I do believe the best song is Vogue.
Yes, I will concur. Favorite Madonna music video?
I would say Borderline. I love it. I love how she looked. I mean, it was really my introduction.
You like the love story? You want to be on a rooftop with a hot Latino man watching the sunset.
It was her first. It was the first mini movie too that she made.
It was very cinematic.
Cinematic in black and white and color.
Favorite Madonna tour?
Blond Ambition for many reasons.
Yeah, you were part of it. You had to be. Come on. Favorite Madonna movie?
I'm going to say Truth or Dare. But I do love Desperately Seeking Susan, and I love A League of Their Own. But Truth or Dare for me is the real Madonna movie.
Favorite Madonna look, and this can be from a video, a tour, a photo shoot, in person.
I'm actually going to say the Evita promo. I thought she looked absolutely stunning when she was promoting Evita. The blonde hair. She looked so glamorous. She just looked fantastic.
So the Mizell or the Testino photos?
Testino.
Which one? Oh,
Testino.
Good answer.
Testino, baby, Testino.
Oh, those two layouts, Vanity Fair and Vogue. I was like, it took me months to figure that one out. Good choice. Good choice.
No. She looked spectacular.
Yes. So Ron, tell everyone listening where they can find you on the socials.
I actually keep my socials pretty private, but I am on Instagram. But perhaps that might change after this because I'm always interested in meeting the other fans. But my Instagram is Ron Radzinsky, so keep it really simple. And I so appreciate that you give me the opportunity to speak with you guys and share some really wonderful memories. And I hope that that everyone learned a little bit about the genesis of the fan club and just some fun stories about working on a Madonna movie.
Yeah, it's been amazing hearing your story. As somebody who remembers Icon and had that year subscription, and then it's really made me think about what fandom was like then, and then sort of how it changed on the internet, and we had all the little like fan sites and like that, and then social media has taken that over. So we've sort of had like these three phases of fandom, and it's been interesting to like bridge all three of them. And so hearing all your stories from like the original fandom is just so wonderful. It's just
thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity. I really do. You guys are great. And I love your podcast, and I am absolutely championing you to become the tour correspondents. I think this has to happen. I mean, I really do. It's one of those things where they need voices like you out there and promoting the show. And, let's see what we can do about making that happen. But you guys need to be there.
I'm telling you, I think it'd be a perfect synergy for her tour. To have fan perspectives from every show all around the world, interviewing fans about their stories and their experiences and their love for Madonna. And then at the same point, interviewing random people who are part of the show itself, musicians, set dressers, technicians, like hearing their perspectives and their stories. I just think it's a no-brainer, as much as I'd love to interview Madonna, I know she's super busy, and I know that, she's got other things to do than field questions from a podcaster. But there's a whole lot of people who make up a tour and who are, responsible for putting on a show, a production of that scale. And I just think it'd be fun to hear that. And, it's going to happen for a couple months. So why not?
I absolutely agree. I really hope this happens for you guys because you deserve to be there, and your love and your devotion, doesn't go unnoticed. And, thank you so much for the podcast. I know that it's a labor of love, and that you and your guests are just incredible. Every episode just gets better and better and better. And it's such a well-oiled machine. And I'm so glad that you're here to just keep on going. You're just wonderful, really.
Thank you. Well, and thank you for coming on and being part of the
I
legacy.
hope I'm now
part of the archive.
I hope I'm now an
Yes.
official friend of the podcast.
Friend of the, oh yes, Tony always loves that term. Friend of the
I miss
podcast.
Tony. I miss him. And I miss Liberty as well. Please send my very best.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, that's our show for today, everybody. Thanks for taking the time, Ron. This has been great. I love it.
All right, excellent. That's our show. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Ron.
Of course.